Guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day today. I haven't played with my Winsor & Newton Cotman Colors watercolor palette in a while, so I broke it out today for a couple of little paintings. And I've got my Bao 5x7 watercolor block. It's 140-pound cold pressed paper and an Aqua Elite number 12, number 8, and number 3 round. So grab whatever supplies you have on hand. This is just what I'm using today, and I wanted to experiment a little bit with some autumn trees, and so I'm going to be mixing a lot of earthy colors today, some very warm reds and browns and maybe some greens, also with some Payne's gray to add some darkness. So I have my little set here. I'm going into my burnt sienna. I'm also going to use some cad red hue, maybe some alizarin crimson hue, burnt umber, and Payne's gray doesn't come in the set, so I actually use it from a tube. I'm going to grab some of this burnt umber also, and I'm making a watery mix here. So I want a nice sort of reddish brown that's very fall colored, and I'm using a big brush because I want to do some trees, but I'm going to be mixing the colors a bit. I want it to be nice and watery, and I'm going to be dipping into my palette here and adding some more clean color just so that we can get nice variety here, almost like wet and wet, but not quite. I'm also going to be adding a little bit of sap green in here just so we have some, I want a lot of different colors. So it'll be a lot of different trees. Maybe the colors haven't quite changed yet, and maybe some are in the middle of changing. And I want the bottom here to be nice and watery. And then we'll have maybe a little bit of Payne's gray here at the bottom. This is just play, so I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out yet, but I am going to start with this. I've got my watery Payne's gray in my brush still. I'm going to add a little bit to the top of my page and then come in with plenty of water, just like that. Not too much, and I'm not going to bring it all the way down. I just want a nice soft edge with a bit of a toned sky. And then I'm going to come back in to this cad red hue and come in here with another little tree. I'm going to go back into the burnt sienna, and again I'm just using plenty of water because I want this all to mix together. I'm going to come in with some more brown and rinse and add some more of this sap green. So we've got a lot of different sort of tree shapes here, and I'm going to come back up here at the top and add some more water and kind of brush this back so I have a nice soft edge. And I'm not really going to let it touch too much with the top here of my trees because I don't want them to go everywhere. But I'm just going to smooth this out. And I'm going to grab some of this Viridian. Actually, I have a little bit up here mixed with the Payne's gray in my palette, and I'm going to add some of that down here. Now, before I let this dry, I'm going to grab my stylus, and I'm just going to add some little marks here, coming up from the top of my Payne's gray down here, and it's just going to add a little bit of darkness here, a little bit of tree branches, and you can see where we're kind of digging into the painted surface. So when we add our second layer, if we do, which we will, I'm not going to say if because I know I will, we'll be able to have paint kind of collect in those grooves, but it'll also do that as it dries, and you can already see those sort of dark lines showing up. That is exactly what I want, and lots of lines. for me. You can do whatever you like. I'm also going to do some short ones just to give a little bit of texture down here, and wherever that Payne's Gray is kind of wet, it's going to spread out a bit, but we're just going to add some texture down here. Now once more, I'm just going to soften the edge a bit here. Maybe I do want it to spread a little. I kind of like how that looks right there, but we'll see. That's not too bad actually. Now it's pretty dry toward the top here, so I don't know if that will really go. But anyway, let's let this dry and we'll add a second layer here in a few minutes. All right, we are all dry and I am going to add a second layer of trees. So I'm going to start with my alizarin crimson. I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to it. Actually, maybe a little bit of burnt ochre or burnt umber. Whoops. Put a little bit more water in here. And now I'm going to do some other trees kind of right in front. And I might add some yellow to this, just right from the pan. And let's just keep adding some colors. I'm going to go with the sap green. And maybe we can add a little bit of this cad red hue. Maybe some more of this, but just a little bit more sort of rust colored. And you can see it's kind of making this nice little glaze. I really like that. And I'm just going to kind of keep going on and add some color here and there, so we can get just an interesting little layer of trees. I'm going to go back into this purple lake so we have a little bit of a different color here, and might add some down here. Now I'm going to go and grab my smaller round. So I'm going to go back into my Payne's Gray and add a little bit of the burnt umber to it, so we get kind of a nice dark brown. And I'm going to start making some thicker lines up into these trees. And this is going to come straight from the bottom. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that Payne's Gray, and I like that. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to come down here. You know what? I'm going to grab my bigger brush again, get a little bit more of this mix, and I'm going to meet the bottom of my trees here. And then I'm going to just dip into some water and soften this edge a bit. And I want to just add a couple more little ones here. Then I'm going to go back to my stylus and scratch in here a bit. And now it's adding a little bit of a lighter color in some of these spots, because it's actually scraping back a little bit of paint from the second layer now. So it's kind of a neat little effect. And it's not everywhere, it's just in a couple of these little spots that are kind of getting close to drying, but it adds almost like a little highlight. I'm just sort of randomly going through and adding some of these marks, just like that. And then I'm going to let this dry one more time and we'll see what we've got. All right, we are all dry and I really think this came out pretty cute. I liked the experimentation. I liked using the stylus. I really like these little light marks that the stylus made when I scratched through on the second coat. But let me give you the close-up of everything here. And I think this is just a really cute little abstract fall treescape. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you want to try something like this with your watercolors that you have on hand, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep creating.